So, Elon Musk went on X in February, typed 4 words, and I think it was one of the most consequential robot announcements in recent memory. The post said, "This bot got hands." That's it. 4 words. And I know that sounds like a hype tweet, but when you actually dig into the numbers behind it, you start to realize that this isn't marketing fluff. This is Tesla telling you quietly but clearly that the gap between Gen 2 and what comes next is way bigger than people are giving it credit for. I've been following the Optimus program since the AI Day reveal back in 2021, and I want to give you the most honest, data-driven take on what the Gen 3 hand upgrade actually means. Because there is a lot of confusion about the naming, around what Gen 3 even is, and around whether any of this is real progress or just more demo theater. Let's sort all of it out. Now, first, we need to appreciate what Gen 2 actually was. When Tesla unveiled it in December 2023, I remember being genuinely impressed. The robot was lighter, faster, and way more fluid than the first prototype. Tesla trimmed 10 kilograms off the frame compared to the Gen 1, brought the walk speed up 30% to around 8 kilometers per hour, and gave it a 2 DOF actuated neck. The hands had 11 degrees of freedom, which is already a meaningful step up from having basically nothing, and the tactile sensors on the fingertips were a real engineering achievement. The iconic moment from that reveal was watching Gen 2 pick up a raw egg without cracking it. Delicate, precise, controlled. For a robot coming out of the car factory, this was remarkable. And through 2024, Tesla started deploying Gen 2 units internally at Fremont and Austin Gigafactory, mostly doing battery cell sorting, parts handling, and basic quality inspection. Real factory work, not just controlled demos. So, Gen 2 was legitimately good, but here's the thing, 11 degrees of freedom per hand is the number that exposes its ceiling. The human hand has roughly 27 degrees of freedom. That gap mattered enormously the moment you tried to give a Gen 2 robot any task that required subtle, independent finger control. Gripping a wrench is one thing. Threading a bolt, handling a circuit board, or folding fabric is another conversation entirely. Now, this is where it gets genuinely interesting to me, and I think this is the part most coverage gets slightly wrong. When people say Gen 3, a lot of folk assume it's a whole new robot. It isn't, and that's actually kind of the more interesting part of the story than if it were. The body is still the Gen 2 platform, 173 centimeters tall, 57 kilograms, same overall architecture. What changed is the hands, and the hands changed so dramatically that calling it an incremental update would be misleading. Going from 11 degrees of freedom per hand to 22 degrees of freedom is double the dexterity. Full stop. But the actuator count is the number that makes my jaw drop. Gen 2 hands had 11 DOF with a relatively modest actuator setup inside the palm itself. The Gen 3 hand has 25 actuators per side housed in the forearm and not in the palm. 50 actuators total across both hands. That's a 4.5 times increase in actuator count compared to Gen 2. Now, why does putting actuators in the forearm matter? Because it directly mirrors how human musculature actually works. Your fingers don't have motors in them. Your forearm muscles contract and pull tendons through your wrist to move your fingers. Tesla's engineers copied that architecture almost exactly, running tendon cables through the wrist into each fingertip. The result is hands that are physically slimmer, mechanically simpler to manufacture, and significantly more capable. It's the kind of biomimetic thinking that separates serious engineering from science fair projects, and each fingertip now carries force feedback sensors that give the robot real-time grip pressure data. This is what lets it handle fragile objects, glass vials, small components without crushing them. The robot isn't just holding things, it's understanding what it's holding and adjusting accordingly. in real time. Former Optimus program lead Milan Kovac confirmed back in November 2024 that the new hands showed 22 degrees of freedom on the hand plus 3 more degrees on the wrist and forearm combination. And then Tesla board chair Robin Denholm described the tactile capability as very good after watching laundry folding demonstrations in late 2025. That endorsement from someone at that level isn't something you say about a lab prototype that barely functions. Now, here's where I want to give you some strategic context because I think it matters a lot. The hand reveal in February didn't happen in a vacuum. Tesla announced on its Q4 2025 earnings call that it's shutting down Model S and Model X production at Fremont in early 2026 and converting the entire line to build Optimus robots. We're talking about production line that ran for 14 years and produced over 610,000 vehicles being dismantled to build humanoid robots. Tesla is targeting 1 million Optimus units per year at Fremont, and down in Texas, they're already planning a second dedicated Optimus facility aimed at 10 million units per year for future generations. The company committed $20 billion in capital expenditure for 2026 as a whole, and a big chunk of that is robotics. I want to be honest with you though, because I think intellectual honesty is what makes this kind of analysis actually useful. Elon Musk admitted on that same Q4 call that as of January 2026, 0 Optimus robots were doing useful work in Tesla factories. He called it still very much in the R&D phase. That's a remarkable admission to make publicly. A year earlier, in January 2025, he predicted Tesla would build roughly 10,000 Optimus robots that year. That target was missed entirely. So the tension here is real. The hardware progress is genuine, and it's genuinely impressive. The production ambitions are enormous and are credible in terms of capital commitment, but the gap between having impressive hands in a lab and having robots doing actually useful work at scale in a factory environment is still very wide, and Musk himself is saying so out loud now. I respect that more than I would a polished denial. However, here's something I think deserves more attention. The Gen 3 hands are production ready right now, which is confirmed as of February 2026. But the full Gen 3 robot reveal, the complete production intent body that Musk described at the Q3 2025 earnings call as sublime and said would make you need to poke it or believe it's not actually a robot, that hasn't fully happened yet. In fact, it's not even close. At the Q3 call, Musk said that the reveal would come in Q1 2026. It's now Q2 2026. This didn't happen on schedule, evidently. At the Q1 2026 earnings call, he said that the full reveal is probably coming middle of this year, and that production would formally begin in late July or August at Fremont. Musk was unusually measured on that call, which I actually found more reassuring than his typical confident projections. He told investors that it's literally impossible to predict the production rate for something with 10,000 unique parts being built on a brand new line. Would you imagine that? Musk being realistic? Konstantinos Laskaris, who now leads the Optimus program, showed a silhouette of the Gen 3 full body at an ATH Robotics Club event in Zurich, and what observers noticed is that the forearms are visibly thicker, accommodating those 25 actuators per side, and the overall proportions are significantly more human-like than Gen 2. Tesla China also teased at the Shanghai Appliance and Electronics World Expo in March 2026, and the response from people who saw it in person were notably different from the usual cool prototype reaction. People said the hands looked nearly identical to human hands in motion. So, let me give you my honest read on all of this. The Gen 3 hand upgrade is not hype. The numbers are real, and the architecture is genuinely smart. The 4.5 times actuator increase is the kind of jump that changes what a robot can actually do, not just how impressive it looks on video. Going from 11 to 22 degrees of freedom per hand, combined with biomimetic tendon-driven design and a real tactile feedback, moves Optimus from interesting proof of concept to plausible factory worker in the near term. Now, what I find most compelling isn't any single spec. It's the combination of the Grok AI integration of natural language instructions, the FSD-derived neural network for perception and movement, and now hands capable of 3,000 discrete manipulation tasks according to Tesla's own figures. These things are converging at the same time Tesla is converting a real car factory and committing real capital. That is a different kind of signal than a flashy keynote. The long-term price target is $20,000 to $30,000 per unit at a scale, with Musk citing under $20,000 as the eventual consumer goal. First external commercial customers are expected in late 2026. Consumer availability is being talked about for the end of 2027. Those timelines have slipped before, and I'd be naive to pretend that definitely won't slip again. But I'll say this: Gen 2 was a genuine step forward. These Gen 3 hands made Gen 2's hands look like rough draft, and if the full body reveal this summer delivers even half of what Musk described at that Q3 earnings call, we're gonna have to look back at the specific moment in February 2026 when he said, "This spot got hands," as the point where the Optimus program stopped being a fascinating experiment and started being something you had to take seriously.